Off Somalia. Calm sea window. The water is unusually smooth for this stretch of ocean, the kind of night attackers wait for. The merchant ship runs steady and predictable, a dark wall moving through faint haze. You hear light wind, small waves, and the deep, constant pulse of the ship's engine. On screen, off Somalia, calm sea window. Then the silence breaks. Multiple skiffs surge in from the darkness, low, fast silhouettes skimming the surface. Their small engines build into a tight, aggressive buzz as they close the distance. Flashlights snap on and sweep the ship's hull in quick, searching arcs, hunting for a moment and a place to commit. On screen, multiple skiffs. And here's the first question you need to hold on to. Why do they wait for calm seas? Because a boarding attempt is not about bravery, it's about stability. When the water goes flat, the ladder goes up. At 040, the rope ladder rises. It's lifted, guided, and thrown with practiced timing. The hook catches the metal edge and scrapes hard, loud in the night. The camera shakes with the motion, documentary style, close to the hull, close enough to feel the speed and the spray. On screen, rope ladder up. You hear rope and metal grinding, water slapping, engines straining as the skiff fights to hold position against a moving ship. By 0110, they're on deck. One, maybe two, figures crest the rail and drop onto the steel surface, staying low, moving fast. No gore, no theatrics, just urgency. They sprint along the container lanes and the rail line, scanning for doors, access points, and any path inward. On screen, on deck. And this is the second question, because it sounds like the attack has already succeeded. Once they're on deck, how can they still lose? At 140, the answer begins behind a door. The crew doesn't scatter. They move with purpose, down corridors, through secured routes, into a hardened safe area designed for exactly this moment. A heavy steel door closes, then another. Locks engage. Bars and latches bite into place. On screen, Citadel sealed. You hear the slam of metal, the hard click of bolts, fast breathing, the muffled pressure of people holding still. No clear dialogue, no panic words, just controlled urgency. The ship's most valuable asset isn't the cargo, it's the crew. And the crew has just disappeared. From Oro 220 to Oro 3 Borso, the pirates are stranded in the worst possible position, on the ship, but not in control of it. They have deck space, but they don't have the bridge. They don't have the captain. They don't have leverage. They move across the floodlit steel, searching for a way in, but every meaningful door is sealed. They can't force the ship to change course. They can't command the crew to comply. They can't turn boarding into control, and now time starts working against them. Because a locked citadel can do something else, quietly and effectively. Call for help. In the next 20 minutes, we're going to decode this entire failure in 3 layers. The calm sea timing window that makes rope ladders possible, the citadel that changes the rules of a boarding, and the distress signal that turns this from an attack into a countdown. Timing. Citadel. Distress. On screen. Timing. Citadel. Distress. Pull back and put this on a simple map. Off the coast of Somalia, the sea lanes look like a narrow highway. Merchant ships moving through a predictable corridor because global trade depends on schedules. The danger zones sit along that corridor like invisible pressure points. The ships can't simply teleport around them. They have to pass through, and the attackers understand that. This is a place merchant traffic must cross, and attackers choose the best timing, not blind luck. They don't need to hunt forever. They just need one clean window when the sea, the ship, and the crew are most vulnerable. That brings us to the first rule. Why calm seas matter. Rope ladder boarding is a physics problem before it's a fight. When the water is rough, A skiff bounces and separates. The ladder whips and swings, and the climber loses footing. Even a small gap between hull and skiff becomes a hard stop. But when the sea goes smooth, everything stabilizes. The skiff can hold position closer to the hull. The ladder doesn't snap and drift as violently. The climber can time each step without being thrown sideways, and the merchant ship has fewer easy, natural weapons to shake them off. Less chaotic water around the stern, less unpredictable motion, less wake turbulence doing the work for the defender. On screen, calm sea window. Calm seas don't guarantee success, but they remove the biggest sources of failure, and that's why pirates wait for them. Now the numbers. 18 pirates sounds like a lot. Enough to swarm a deck, enough to look overwhelming, and in many cases it is enough to take the outer space of a ship quickly. But taking the deck is not the same thing as taking the ship. 18 can be split into roles. A team to drive and hold skiffs alongside the hull, a team to climb and secure a foothold on deck, a team to move fast and search for access points, and a team to grab valuables or equipment if the opportunity appears. It's organized, not random. But here's the key line. They don't need to sink the ship. They need to control people. Pirates win through leverage, and human leverage comes from access to the crew and the captain, which leads to the real objective, the bridge. Control equals bridge. On screen. Control unfact bridge. The bridge is where course changes happen, where radio and navigation are managed, where the captain becomes the pressure point. If pirates can't reach the bridge, they can't force a reroute, can't steer toward a safe haven, can't dictate the ship's movement, and can't turn boarding into control. They might be physically on board, but they're still outside the ship's decision-making center. And without the decision-making center, they're holding the skin, not the skeleton. This is where the Citadel changes the entire equation. A Citadel is not a weapon, and it's not a trap. It's a hardened, safe area designed to do two things: deny intruders access to the crew and maintain communication long enough to call for help. No construction details, no how-to, just the concept. When the crew withdraws into a locked citadel, the pirates lose their most valuable target: people. The ship becomes a moving shell with no leverage inside it, and that sets up the cliffhanger. Boarding is no longer victory, because the crew vanishes behind a door and suddenly the attackers are on deck, with nothing to control. At 07 Bor, the approach begins like a coordinated drill. The skiffs split into angles, one group staying wider as a distraction, making noise and showing lights just enough to pull attention, while another group commits to the real job, getting a ladder up on the hull. Engines cut through the calm water with sharp, high-pitched buzz, and the wind is light enough that every change in speed feels louder than it should. This isn't a chaotic rush. It's a staged entry. Create confusion on one side, create access on the other. By 0740, the rope ladder is in motion again. A hook rises, finds metal, and catches. The ladder snaps taut, and 2, maybe 3 climbers start up in quick succession. No injuries shown, no gore, just the clean, tense mechanics of a climb against a moving wall. On screen, boarding attempt. Below them, a skiff fights to maintain position, engines straining to match speed. Above them, the ship's deck is still dark enough to hide shapes, but bright, enough to reveal movement in flashes. From 0830 to 0940, the first boarders crest the rail and drop onto steel. They stay low, moving fast along the container lanes and rail lines, scanning for doors and access points that lead inward. Their body language says the same thing. Don't get stuck on deck. Get inside. Because inside is where control lives. And here's the mini cliffhanger. If they open the right door, if they reach the interior corridors, the ship can change hands in minutes. Not because the ship is weak, but because people are. pressure on the crew becomes pressure on the captain, and pressure on the captain becomes control of the route. Then, at 0940, the ship makes the first decisive move. And it's not a fight, it's a withdrawal. The crew moves with a plan. Lights flick on in selected areas, doors are shut in sequence, and the last crew member through doesn't hesitate. A heavy steel door closes and locks. Then secondary locks engage. And suddenly the ship's most valuable asset disappears. On screen, Citadel lockdown. This is the turning point. The pirates are on deck, but the crew has taken the crew out of the equation. From 10:20 to 11:10, you see the attackers collide with the hard counter. They test doors. They move along the superstructure searching for another entry point. They strike and shove where they think a weak spot might be. But we don't show techniques. We don't show forced entry details. What we show is the result. Denial. The doors don't give. The interior stays sealed. And the key beat lands. They are physically on the ship, but they have no hostages, and they have no bridge. Without hostages, there is no leverage. Without the bridge, there is no steering wheel. Without both, boarding becomes a trap, because time starts running against the attackers. Decoded number 1. Citadel strategy isn't about winning a fight. It's about removing the human lever. Pirates don't need to beat steel. They need to pressure people. A citadel converts a human crisis into a time problem, and time is the one resource attackers can't create. At 12:10, the second decision activates, and it happens behind the locked door. Inside the citadel, communication equipment comes alive. A distress alert is sent. No frequencies, no technical instruction, just the unmistakable signal that help has been requested. On screen, distress sent. You hear electronic beeps and radio static, short and clinical, like a switch flipping the entire scenario from private crisis to public response. From 13:00 to 13:50, frustration spreads across the deck. The pirates move faster now, less methodical. They check around the bridge structure, probe for access, look for any sign of the crew, anything that gives them leverage. But there's nothing to grab. No voices, no footsteps, just locked steel and empty corridors.
Attention, unauthorized personnel.
On screen,
This is the
no
International
control.
Cease all
They can take
activity.
objects on
Prepare to
deck,
be boarded.
but objects don't steer ships. Objects don't negotiate. People do, and the people are gone. By 13:50, the third pressure arrives. Distance changes. Far out in the dark, a new presence begins to announce itself. Faint lights on the horizon, the low suggestion of rotor thump, or the steady growl of another vessel closing in. It doesn't need to be close yet. It only needs to be real, because distress turns the attack into a race, and races punish delay. Decoded number 2. Time pressure is the quiet weapon. The moment the distress call is sent, every minute on deck becomes risk. The longer the attackers stay, the tighter the net becomes. At 14:50, the environment turns hostile in a different way. A searchlight sweeps the waterline. A short loudspeaker warning cuts through the wind. Brief, firm, not dramatic. On screen, response incoming. The message is simple, even if the words aren't. You've been seen, and you're running out of space. From 15:25 to 16:05, the decision to retreat happens fast. The pirates abandon the ladder, break into smaller clusters, and sprint back toward the rails and down to the skiffs. Engines flare. Water explodes off the stern as they pull away at speed, trying to disappear into the same darkness that brought them in. The sound is urgent now. Outboard screaming, spray snapping, wind tearing at the noise as the distance opens. Decoded number 3. Boarding is not controlled. If you don't take the bridge and you don't take hostages, you can't drive the ship, physically or psychologically. The Citadel doesn't stop them from stepping onto the deck. It stops them from turning that step into power. At 16:30, the ship is still moving, and the work isn't over. The deck lights remain up. The crew stays in procedure mode, not celebration mode. They sweep the aft deck and container lanes with disciplined spacing, checking rails, doors, and access points without rushing. They verify that barriers are intact, that no entry has been forced, and that nothing has been left behind that could signal a second attempt. Radios hiss with short bursts of static. Engines keep their steady pulse. The key detail is simple. Even after the skiff's retreat, you don't relax. You confirm, you reset, you keep watch, because the sea doesn't announce when the threat is truly gone. Now let's lock in the 3 lessons. Decoded. First, timing. Calm seas are the golden window for rope ladders. When the water flattens, small craft can hold position, ladders swing less, and climbers can move faster with fewer mistakes. But that window is fragile. It can close in minutes with a shift in wind, a change, in wake, or a defensive speed adjustment. Timing is not a guarantee. It's a gamble attackers try to turn into a certainty. And the moment the conditions change, the ladder stops being a bridge and becomes a liability. Second, Citadel. A citadel makes boarding meaningless. It doesn't matter if pirates touch the deck, run the lanes, or wave their lights across steel. If there are no hostages and no bridge access, they don't have control. Control isn't about being on the ship. It's about controlling the people who run the ship. The Citadel removes the human lever. No captain under pressure, no crew to threaten, no forced course change. Without those, the attackers can't turn presence into power. Third, distress. The distress call is the quiet countdown. The second it goes out, the attackers are no longer operating in a private moment. They are on borrowed time. Every minute they stay increases the odds of a response asset entering the area. An escort ship, a patrol, craft, even airborne surveillance depending on the region and the day. The longer they remain on deck, the tighter the situation becomes. Distress doesn't have to defeat them directly. It traps them in a race they rarely win. Now the hinge point, the uncomfortable what if. What is the most dangerous scenario if there is no citadel? It's not cinematic chaos. It's a fast, controlled takeover of leverage. The pirates get inside. They reach the bridge area. They find the captain and force compliance. Under pressure, the course can be altered. The ship can be steered toward a chosen direction, and the situation shifts from an attempted boarding to a hostage-driven negotiation. That's why citadels exist, not to stop footsteps on deck, but to prevent the moment where a ship's decisions are taken away. And next episode, the playbook changes. No rope ladder on the hull. No obvious climb. Instead, the attackers try something more subtle. Cutting power, creating confusion, or misdirecting systems to open a path inward while the crew is disoriented. On screen, next, inside access. If you want the breakdown of that approach and the counter moves that keep control in the crew's hands, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.